My folks decided to host a barbecue because I guess that's what older people do. I declined because I really don't like my two sisters, their husbands or their kids. Wife and I are child-free. Mom then pressured the wife. Long story short, we went. By the time we arrived there were about 20 people there. My sisters and their husbands were already solidly buzzed. Drunk really. My mom was spending 100% of her time trying to keep the nieces and nephews, ages 7 to 11, more or less under control. My dad had strategically retreated to the whirlpool part of the pool with small cooler full of beers. Wife and I made small talk with miscellaneous people, ate food and had a frozen margarita. Sisters/Bills took turns criticizing us for being late, not being in our swimsuits and screwing up the vibe. Whatever. Typical suburban summer get-together. About 45 minutes in, two of the kids ran at one of the neighbor guests who was standing next to the pool and pushed her in. She was at the pool steps, stumbled in but didn't fall, so only got half wet. She was clearly very unhappy about it, but she didn't make a scene, just went over to where the parents were, grabbed their towels, dried herself off and left. Sisters and Bills thought it was all great fun. A bit later I was standing a few feet away from the pool chatting away with someone. I saw 3 of the kids running full tilt at me from the corner of my eye. Obviously I was next. Not that it's terribly difficult to outwit young kids, but I just jumped out of their way at the last second. All 3 of them ran straight into the pool at full speed. Most of the other guests, including my wife and me, started laughing, but their moms, who as I mentioned were pretty shit-faced, absolutely freaked out. Apparently 2 of the kids couldn't swim even though they were in swimsuits. Since I wasn't in swim gear, I stepped back from the pool and let other people fish the kids out. The kids were bawling their heads off like they'd lost a limb. At that point all hell broke loose. The 4 drunk parents were yelling at everyone in general and me in particular for nearly letting their kids drown, and also because 2 of the kids had been videoing the trick using their parents' iPhones, which were now at the bottom of the pool. One of my Bills got into the pool to try to retrieve the phones, but his BMI and BAC made that impossible. No one else volunteered to help, unsurprising given that my sisters were still bitching at everyone. I told my sisters it was their job to watch their kids and that if anything had happened to them it would have been their responsibility, not mine. There were some pretty strong words on both sides. Wife and I left after the other Bill fell over and face planted while yelling at us. Now they're saying I should have let the little shits knock me into the pool and have their fun, and ruin my phone. So, Ida? Side note, Dad, of course, never got out of the whirlpool. Oop, that's probably the one positive thing that will come out of this. Wife is much more tolerant and forgiving than I am towards my siblings, but based on what she was saying on the way home I think she's had it with them as well. Update 1. First off, my folks tell me that my nieces and nephews are all good swimmers and that they use the pool all the time. The 7-year-old is still a beginner but he loves the water. My sister just said they couldn't swim, so I look bad. To be fair, none of the kids are allowed in the deep end, which is where they fell in. It was the 2 10-year-olds and the 9-year-old who tried to push me into the pool. After we left, the party ended on a pretty sour note. My drunk brother-in-law who face-planted while yelling at me had to go to an urgent care place and get his face stitched up. He was too toasted to drive, so Dad took him. Dad was very happy about this. Late that evening my sisters started a group text and said some really nasty crap. Their husbands threw in a few comments as well. Wife and I blocked the 4 of them. My mom called me. She was pretty upset about what they said. She and Dad were in the chat, and I don't blame her. Because of the texts my folks insisted my sisters, Bills, come over the next day, Sunday, without their kids to get some things straight and lay down some ground rules, mom's wording. The result was a contrite if unenthusiastic apology from the siblings via my mom's phone. I'm glad my wife was with me when they called. Her hard stares kept me from saying what I wanted to. I just told them thanks and that we felt no need to discuss it further. Since I thought things were settled I unblocked them. That evening I got a text from one of the Bills telling me the phones cost $4x and asking when I'd be paying for them. WTF? I replied never, took a screenshot of his text and forwarded it to my folks with a note that we were done with this nonsense. We're going no contact with sisters, spouses, and not to invite us to any more holidays or get-togethers if they'll be present. Then I blocked the sisters and their spouses again. At that point the shit really hit the fan. Dad called them and ripped them a new one. Among other things he told them the grandkids were not welcome at his place indefinitely. Since my mom regularly provides free babysitting, that got them pretty rattled. He also banned them from using the vacation house and told them my wife and I actually own it, not he and mom. This completely freaked them out. Both of my sisters' families use the place a lot, including having their friends up for weekend getaways. This was very much out of character for my folks. They'd clearly had it. And for reference, I never wanted my sisters to know we own the place. We bought it for my folks. They'd always wanted a place in the mountains. Keeping the ownership quiet was just a way to avoid drama with my siblings. A couple of days later my sisters and their husbands came to our place unannounced to apologize in person. We were out to dinner and they left a note. One sister also called me at work too. I sent her to voicemail. We've decided being no contact is the best thing for the indefinite future and haven't interacted with them for the last 3+ weeks. Personally I'm done, they can go pound sand. Update 2. Well, it's been an interesting last few days. I thought the shit had hit the fan before, but it was more of a fart compared to what's happened this week. For this to make sense I need to provide some financial context. My folks haven't ever been any good at saving money. I've been doing their taxes for years, so I know pretty much everything about them money-wise. Their house is paid for and they have minimal debt, but they didn't save much for retirement. Both of them get Social Security, Dad gets a solid pension and they have a bit of savings, but there's no treasure chest in the basement. I bought their current car for them after they retired, a retirement present so they could have something nice to drive. It was the first car in probably 20 years they didn't lease. My sisters are convinced the folks are dripping with money and that our parents will be leaving the two of them everything since I don't need more money, so they've never cared about saving either. Turns out my oldest sister and her husband, they have 3 kids, have been living beyond their means for some time and are in financial straits. They've maxed out their credit cards and are behind on their car leases to the point that one is about to get repossessed. He'd bragged in the past about making X per year, but it turns out to be about half that. She confessed all this to Mom on Tuesday because they need a loan and because, and this was a WTF moment for Mom and Dad, that for the last 3 years instead of staying at the vacation house regularly she's actually been renting it out once a month or so and pocketing the cash. We're talking $2,000 plus for a weekend and at least $4,000 for a week. With her being cut off from using the place, she's had to cancel one group already. She's now worried they'll lose everything. My folks aren't in any position to give them a loan. My other sister was aware of her renting out the place but of course hasn't ever said anything. I suspect she's done the same thing as well because I went up there once to drop off an ATV I had worked on and there was a family there who claimed to be staying there with my sister, her family, and that they'd gone to town for something. At the time I let it go, I figured she'd loaned out the house to some friends. But I've always wondered. I found all this out through my folks who are pretty stressed out about it, Mom more than Dad. He's mainly just pissed off about it all. I know Dad feels betrayed. And I imagine he's embarrassed that he's in no position to help his daughter out. He did reiterate that as long as it's up to him the girls won't be using the vacation home anytime soon. My folks let me know what's going on because they figured my sisters would put a full court press on me next. And they were right. On Thursday my sisters came to our place again, without husbands this time, and waited outside the door until I got home. I had to choose between fighting with them in public, them making a scene if I went in without them, or letting them in, so I let them in. I got a bullshit story from the older sister with the younger one backing her up regarding why I needed to let them use the mountain place again immediately. They also said I've been a shitty brother and that I needed to step up and plan on paying for their kids' college tuition since that's what family does. I let them pitch their story, then called them out based on what my folks had told me. Things went to shit from there. There was denial, crying, cursing, yelling, you name it. I swear, my ears are still ringing 2 days later. Won't lie, I said some really mean and shitty things to them, but nothing that wasn't true. They finally left after about an hour. After that I took a shower and laid down. When I got up my wife was home and her first words were that she'd had to block more phone numbers because my sisters were blowing up our phones from new ones. Folks messaged me yesterday asking me to call. I'm sure my sisters have told them some bullshit version of what happened, but I'm not up to rehashing it yet. I'm usually a pretty energetic person, but this drama has me beaten down. I had just enough energy today to drive up to the vacation house and padlock the entrance gate shut. I'm the only one with a key. I'm guessing that will be enough to ensure my siblings leave the place alone. They'd probably die trying to walk 400 yards uphill to get to the house. Update 3. Yet another update regarding the cluster F that is my extended family. Thought it might be time given what's gone on over the past 2 weeks. After my sisters came to my place, my mom and dad told me they were done with managing the vacation home. Sounded like the sisters had been pressuring them to let them use the place again. Basically my folks handed the responsibility for place over to me and told me it was my problem from here on out. Up until then they'd kept track of who would be using it when, and they'd taken care of routine maintenance, replacing worn out items, etc. In any case they decided they didn't want to be in the middle of all this crap. While I don't blame them, I'm disappointed because the damn place was supposed to be something for them to enjoy and hang out in, and they use it regularly. Plus I've never cared that they let my sisters and their families use it, because really I've always thought that was my parents' call even though I technically own it. But now my folks are going to be in the position of not having access without me being involved, and that changes the whole dynamic of the place. I've taken several steps to secure the place. I already mentioned that I locked the gate. It has a heavy-duty chain and the best lock I could find. I also did a full reset on all the door keypads and created all new codes. Security cameras got installed yesterday, which is actually pretty cool because the installer convinced me to put a high-res one that looks out over the valley. The system cost me way more than I thought it would, but the peace of mind is worth it. The installer also put up signs on the property saying the place was monitored by video. I also installed a heavy-duty lockout for the water shutoff, drain valve. I hope to hell I don't lose the keys for it, because if I do it's going to be a bear to try to remove. Haven't told anyone but my wife that the water is locked off and again, only we have the keys. Last week I got separate calls in my office from both of the husbands trying to convince me to let them use the house like they always have. The older one had gone up with some friends for a guys hangout but couldn't get in because of the gate lock. He was pretty pissed and embarrassed about being locked out. I'm sure he would have broken the lock if he could have. During his call he kept bouncing between pushy and victimhood. At one point he threatened to rip that gate out of the goddamn ground. He also admitted they'd been renting it out to a few friends, that they needed the money, I was ruining their business and that I should refund their guests' money. Me? F that. I should have recorded the conversation with him, but I don't know how to do that from an office phone anyway. The other bill just sounded like he was being made to call by my sister. He didn't really put up a fight when I told him not to plan on ever using the place again. In any case, I told them they can't use the place and not to ask again. At this point I'm considering selling the vacation home. Wife and I won't use it enough to justify keeping it, and it's not like there's going to be any family get-togethers there anytime soon. I mentioned selling it to my folks. Their response was pretty much whatever. I'd more than double my money by selling it. The place consists of 3 lots with killer views and is at the end of a private road. But I'll probably wait for a while to sell. Doing so now would be an emotional decision. My sisters and I aren't currently speaking, and I have no plans to initiate contact. I don't know what the status between them and my folks is, and I don't want to. On the upside, we spent an evening with my folks last week, went to a new restaurant that was nice. No one brought up any of this crap. Mom did update us on the nieces and nephews. She's spending time with them at their homes. Sorry this update isn't full of laughs or owns, that's just life sometimes. Update 4. Oop, I agree that my sisters and their families are very entitled. They're also in an extremely weak position in all of this. The place is a bit remote to rent as a long-term home. Plus there are times during the winter the road is impassable, so staying there year-round is pretty iffy. There are a couple of permanent residents on the road who are at a lower elevation and relatively close to the year-round public road, but even they have to hunker down or bug out a few times each winter. Regarding making it a vacation rental, doing so would be seen by my sisters as rubbing salt in the wound and would give them a reason to create more drama. And honestly, we don't need the money. The place is paid for, it's in great shape, it doesn't cost much to keep the lights on, etc. I did think about lawyering up and covering them with paper. It wouldn't even cost me much. A good friend is a property law attorney. But again, doing so would escalate things and give them reason to create family drama. My primary goal at this point is to minimize my involvement with them and minimize any nonsense that causes my parents stress. I'm willing to take some short-term flack and absorb some expenses like the camera system to keep things contained. It could blow up again, but I suppose I'll drive off that bridge when I come to it. I don't think we'll sell right away, if at all. It's more of a last resort, personal fantasy thought than anything else. There's a good chance that come holiday season my folks will reset and want to have the entire family there. Which is fine, we won't be going of course, but I don't care if my parents have guests there. I intend to keep control of the place for the indefinite future though, which will be inconvenient at times because I'll be the only person with a gate key. But I can live with that. Update 5. I hired a guy to look over the vacation home. He lives in the area, takes care of his folks and manages a good number of properties. Some are vacation rentals, some are weekend places like ours. He has access to my camera feeds and does a physical check on the place every week or two. I think he may have the best job in the mountains. He gets paid to drive around with his dog, walk around the properties and hangs out on people's decks whenever he feels like it. He also has a camera feed from a house near the start of the private road that takes still shots whenever a vehicle goes past it. $450 per month, plus he'll do basic maintenance and repairs on an hourly basis. He's friends with all of the sheriff's deputies too. Got a lot of peace of mind from doing this. And he sends photos from his walks to everyone once or twice a week. I have to brag a bit on my parents. I got all this from them tonight at dinner. They were getting pressure from my sisters to demand that I open up the vacation house to everyone for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving up there had become quite the tradition for the family, not for me or my wife. We've gone once in 7 years. My dad refused to bother me about it because he knew I'd say no. They came up with what I think is a great plan, announced that they were organizing the Thanksgiving gathering and, if everyone split the cost in advance, they'd rent an Airbnb in the mountains. Otherwise they'd host Thanksgiving at their place or one of the sisters could host it. This caused a fight between the sisters because the middle sister was all for doing the Airbnb but the oldest one doesn't have any money. The deadline to commit to the Airbnb has passed. Looks like Thanksgiving will be at my parents' place. Regardless, we won't be there. My parents have asked that we not sell the place for now. They decided they'd still like to use it occasionally but not until my sisters have come to terms with the new normal. And of course they'd probably like it if everyone could get together there again down the road, but that's just not going to happen. I'd just as soon sell it and move on at this point, but I can live with keeping it if my folks do use it now and again. Plus it will be worth even more down the road. Wife and I have stayed no contact with my sisters and their husbands. Both sisters have called from new numbers, FU Google Voice, and left messages insisting that I meet with them for our parents' sake to work out how everyone can use the family vacation home. They called my wife too. I'm glad I was already in the habit of not answering calls if I don't recognize the number. I honestly don't know if they're delusional or if they think they can bully me into giving them access again. Don't really care. My parents tell me that the oldest sister and her husband are getting out of the leases for their SUV and big-ass truck and are selling their jet skis and some other shit they've never needed. That's going to be really hard on her. She's quite the braggart and won't like being seen in something older, smaller, cheaper. My Bill's identity is very much wrapped up with his truck as well. He even has a small tattoo of the truck company's logo. Which frankly is one of the many reasons why he and I never hung out. Several people have suggested I make the vacation home into an Airbnb. I don't plan to do so, at least anytime soon. I know it would make money, but it would cause an incredible amount of drama across the family and would stress out my parents. They don't need that. It would also be a hassle to remove personal things my folks have there. That stuff has nowhere to go. And there would be wear and tear on the place. And I'm sure it would take some amount of time on my part, even though I'd use a manager to do it. Just not worth it to me. Yep, that line killed me. And they both used it in separate voicemails. They're trying hard to find any crack in my armor, kind of curious as to what they'll try next. Which will probably happen soon, because another tradition is to meet up there right after Christmas for a few days. Sometimes for several days, including New Year's. I'm pretty pleased that my dad has been firm with them on all of this. I've rarely seen him be that way. His nature is gregarious, friendly, good at getting people to cooperate, that sort of thing. He's also told me that he likes not feeling responsible for the place anymore. Now, next story. Boyfriend's son despises me, resulting in a screaming match and me leaving the house, but now my boyfriend wants me to apologize to maintain peace. I, 19 male, have been in a relationship with Henry for a while now. I moved into his place last year after another bad fight with my dad. Things have been going relatively smooth for the most part, except when it comes to visitors. Henry has two sons, Chris, 26M, and Junior, 29M. Chris visits 2 or 3 times a month and I'd consider us friends. When he's here, he usually comes early and stays the day, just to check in and help me with some chores until his dad gets home. Junior, on the other hand, doesn't seem to like me very much. I don't think he's really accepted that his dad is gay, so he can get mad when I'm here. He's only visited a couple of times before and they all ended up with him glaring at me and my boyfriend. Before his second to last visit in January, we had a sort of mutual civility other than his glaring. During the second to last visit, it ended in a screaming match with Henry about me. He really doesn't like that I'm there. So Chris broke up with his girlfriend Emily, F27. They left on a good note, so he decided to let her live in their apartment until his lease ended and they can both move somewhere else. Chris lives closer to our place than Junior's, so for the first couple of days he crashed here. 2 days ago, Junior came to pick Chris and his stuff up from the house. Knowing this and how upset Junior is with my presence, I asked Henry if I should go out to my friend's place. He agreed, so I packed my night bag and left. Turns out I forgot my toothbrush. I remembered it when I was still only a couple minutes away from the house, so I circled back to go get it. People were asking why I didn't just buy one, but Henry handles the finances and holds the debit card. I had cash, but I was saving it for food. I went inside the front without seeing anyone and went upstairs to grab it. Coming down, a very pissed Junior was staring at me from the bottom of the stairs. Turns out he parked in the back. He started to yell again, especially at Henry. Chris shuffled me out of the house and offered to take me back to my dad's place, which was really odd since I was pretty sure he knew about our bad relationship, so I just went back to my friend's place. A couple days later, I'm back at Henry's, and he's asking me to apologize and or talk to Junior. He seems really persistent on it, but I don't think I did anything wrong, even if apologizing would just be to keep the peace. Junior kind of scares me now. I don't want to apologize, but I don't want to damage Henry's relationship with Junior. Update 1. I feel weird making an update because at this point to me it's like, oh look at me, but I felt weirder knowing that people were still concerned after my last post. I don't like making people feel crappy. I'm safe, I'm healthy, yes I've been crying, no I'm not proud of it, it's messy but I've been working on it. I'm still at Junior's. It's been peaceful. He folds his socks oddly. I've been trying to find another place for me to go. I don't want to be a burden for the next eternity. Or witness whatever the hell he's doing to his socks. /J, it's also kind of awkward living with your boyfriend's son. At least it feels like it to me in my head. He hasn't done anything that makes me feel that way. I could go back to my father's, but quite frankly I really don't want to. A friend suggested contacting my extended family. That's an option, but I honestly don't know them very well. The last time I've seen any of them was at a funeral over a decade ago. Plus, they're 3 states away. The best option I have right now is getting a job that makes enough for me to rent a room. I've been looking, but it hasn't been easy. It's difficult to get an actual full job at my age during the summer. Since I live in a college town/area, everyone assumes I'll quit right before the college's semester starts, even if I tell them otherwise. Of course I'm going to keep trying. Until I get enough for consistent rent, I'll need Talkouch Surf. I'll be fine. I have a couple of friends who've offered to let me stay at their places before I even asked. I'll make sure to not overstay my welcome before going to the next friend's house. I haven't told Junior yet, but I'm sure he'll be happy to have his apartment back to himself and teenager free at his old, very old, nearly 30 age. Henry has been calling and texting me. The most I've done is respond to some texts. I've been declining 99% of his calls for now. The extra 1% was when his texts got pretty desperate. I don't have any plans on going back to his place right now, but he's been consistently offering to pay for me to attend our local, and pretty big, college. I know he can afford it. I'm not saying I would go for it, I'm just saying it'd be pretty easy to stick out another 4 years for that amount of money and then ditch him a couple 10,000s poorer. So I'm almost sure that relationship's over and through. Thank you all for your help, I needed to get hit over the head with some common sense. Update 2. You guys were right, Junior looked at me as if I was insane when I apologized for being a burden and promised I'd start looking for another place to live. He said if I felt uncomfortable in any way, I'd be free to go. Otherwise, he doesn't mind having me around. I told him I didn't like being a freeloader, but that I do like it there. I didn't say this to him, but I don't remember ever feeling that at ease anywhere else. He told me if it was a thing about freeloading, I could pay him rent by helping with some chores and starting community college. While I agreed to those terms, that sounded crazily easy, and I told him I was looking for a job that I could pay rent with once I had enough money. Chris heard about my job search and helped me get a job. He had some friends at an animal daycare that needed extra staff. All I have to do on my shift is take care of dogs. And pet dogs. And play with dogs. I literally can't think of a better job I could have gotten right now. It wasn't full time, but eventually I made enough to give a small bit of rent to Junior. He looked me dead in the eyes and handed it back saying it was payment for the housework. Pissed me off. This went on for 2 weeks. I gave up. The best I can do is pay for groceries sometimes and stay on the track to community college. I feel like I'm definitely doing some type of scamming, but at this point Junior deserves it. I tried. We did what you/Floomby suggested. Port your current number to a burner phone. Change the number on your current phone. Give the burner phone to Junior and ask him to hide it somewhere you will never find it. Let Junior monitor in case Henry is planning something weird. Luckily my phone is one of the few things Henry didn't pay for, and my dad still pays for my phone. He's made no move of stopping. I'm not sure if that's from guilt or what, but he's fine with it. There is some news on Henry. Apparently he's been asking my friends where I am, and they never thought about telling me about it. I never thought he'd go that far now since I heard he has a new boyfriend, but here we are. A good bit of my friends are fine with us splitting, but some have varying views on it. A couple of them have tried to convince me that Henry at least deserves an in-person explanation and breakup. Pretty much all of them that I didn't know before Henry have been talking that way. One of them, Jack, 24M, short for Jackass, told Henry where I was after Henry asked him again. The lion, the witch, and the audacity of that bitch. Henry showed up unannounced last week. We just finished taking groceries in, so the door was still unlocked. I don't really know what happened after that. Junior told me to go wait in my room and that everything would be fine. At that point I was too shocked and wanted to dissociate from the situation, so I put my earbuds in and started watching YouTube with the door closed. From what I could hear, they were arguing, but it was all muffled for me. Sorry Reddit, can't give you the drama on their conversation, I've failed you/J. I didn't really realize Henry left until Junior's girlfriend Sarah, 28F, showed up with takeout. Over dinner she said Junior was out somewhere finishing the conversation with Henry out in public. Junior came back a bit later and promised that Henry wouldn't be back. Cryptic as hell, but he probably just threatened him with the cops. Probably. I was nervous the following 2 days and found myself borderline insane with checking the peephole, windows, and locks on the windows and doors. I think Junior and Sarah noticed, because Sarah offered for me to hang out at her place, i.e. a place Henry doesn't know the address to, while our place was empty. I've been doing that. It's nice. I hope her relationship with Junior continues to work, because I really like her dog. If any bridges are burned I'll be breaking in to pet him, and that's really a hassle. I had no idea how Henry found out where I was until Jack called me this morning to apologize. I don't think I'll be speaking to him again. I haven't told anyone yet, but I will tomorrow. It stings a bit. I thought we were good friends. Also, Chris talked me into doing some online therapy about a month and a half ago. It's been good. He says it's free because of some charity, but I'm calling BS. He's definitely paying. I'll just have to work harder to get my life on track to make sure his wallet doesn't lose weight for nothing.